I will give you guys a couple of little tips before we get started. Probably the best way to make your macrame look finished and organized, you want to make sure that your knots are even and you pull them nice and tight. Sometimes when you leave them a little loose, they get a little messy and you want them to be lined up, because what you're going for is a symmetrical look. We're going to make little points for each side of the star. So that would be my only real piece of advice before we get started, because essentially all we're doing is making knots. It's very simple. Don't make it too hard. The first thing, and you want to use your clipboard, because your clipboard will keep your project immobilized so that you can get a nice firm knot and pull it nice and tight, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get all of our strings put onto our circle first. We're going to put 12 strings on, and you want them, it doesn't really matter which side you put the knot on, as long as it's the same for the entire project. So there's two different ways to put them on, okay? I like to have my bridge over so I can see my bridge, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take one of your strings, you're going to fold it in half, and you're going to find your center. Then you're going to put this onto your ring. So when I say the bridge, what I mean is you can either go over and pull the bottom loop through, or you can come up from underneath. But if you go over the top, make sure you do that for the entire process. If you come underneath, do that for the entire process. It does not matter, because we'll flip it over depending on which look you like better, but just make sure all of them are put on the same way. So the first thing you're going to do, if you go over the top, you're going to come over the top, spread your circle out, and bring your two pieces through and pull. And this is what I mean when I say your bridge. I like the bridge looking at me, but some people really prefer a more minimalist look, I will say. Okay?
That's the bridge looking at you.
Yes, that's perfect. Yep. Okay, so then you're just going to proceed to put all of those on evenly spaced. The only piece of advice I'm going to give you is don't put one around your hanger piece. Do one on each side, if that makes sense. Okay. I use jute occasionally. I have a project downstairs that's jute, like a bunting, but you're right. And I have like calluses by the time I'm done with a project. Yeah. I do like the cotton cord better. But if you're going for a specific look, jute looks good. Yeah. You know? There's also nylon cord and all kinds of different stuff.
Never heard the word jute.
Yeah, it's almost like a brown burlap cord.
Okay.
And it's really wiry.
So I know what it is. I've just never used the term for it.
I think it kind of hurts, actually.
Yeah, and all those little foo-foos break up all the time. They get in your nose and all over the place.
Sarah, you're flying. Good job.
And all of these are going to fit on this little wreath?
I promise.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You make them fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, you might handle that thing.
Hold it.
Yep. So a square knot essentially is you're going to take your left cord, place it over your two middle cords. See how it's kind of making a square?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to take your right hand cord and you're going to do basically the opposite. You're going to go over the cord that you put on the other side, under your two middle cords, and through the first one. And then you're going to slide it up. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's half your square knot. One's over that one.
And then
under. Yep. So you're basically doing the opposite. You're mirroring what you're doing from one side to the next. Yep, perfect. And then slide that up and try to get your square knot nice and tight up there. That's probably good. Now you're gonna do essentially the same thing but on the opposite side. So yep. Over.
Over.
reverse knot, it's a square knot.
Okay.
Okay. So you have a choice now. Since you know how to do that, you can do that all the way around, but just making sure that you're leaving 2 on each side.
Okay.
So then, for example, for your next one, you're gonna work with your next 3 chords,
Okay.
but you're gonna leave your outer 2 out.
Gotcha.
And only work with your inner 4.
Okay.
So I would do that all the way around.
Okay.
Okay. We're still gonna do the same thing. We're gonna work in our 3 bridge sections. Okay. Now we're gonna work with our outer chords. These are now what we're gonna call our holding chords, and only our inner 4 are working chords. Okay.
Correct.
Now, the thing to remember about your holding chords is the reason why they're called holding chords, because they just hold the knots. They're not really doing anything but holding the knots.
Okay.
So, we're going to hold our chord in the middle, and all of our working chords are going to be what knots.
Listen.
So, see how it's already underneath? You're going to pull up on underneath.
Yeah. Hey, if you
Through.
did it, you baked it well.
And the thing that can mess you up is if you don't hold that tightly. See how we're just sliding our knot onto our holding cord?
Yeah.
That's what we want. That's how we stay nice and even and organized. And that's a single half hitch knot.
It was a
We
bad
want to do
night.
that again. Okay. So we're going to do it again. We come forward from underneath through and slide it on.
Take that from her.
Okay, then we're going to do that one more time. Then we have
Except for the Bronco part.
Sometimes the Raiders do.
and 4 knots.
We often just
Okay.
that's our
We got it. Charisma.
I'm glad you said it.
I think so.
Okay.
Same main thing.
Alright.
Can you observe?
Yes. Now on the outsides. Do you see how they kind of look like they're pointing outwards? And you've got your holding chords are both coming into the middle. We did that thoughtfully because we wanted our knots to come down to a point, right? So now that we have our 2 holding chords, one of them, bless you. One of them is going to remain a holding chord, and one's going to become your working chord because we want to do a last and final double half hitch knot. It doesn't matter which one is your working or your holding, just as long as you maintain that same pattern for the rest of your points. Okay? So if you use your right hand chord as your holding chord, just make sure you use your right hand chord as your holding chord for all your points. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, when you're doing your final knot, you don't have to tighten it quite as tough because you have 2 knots to take the space. So you can leave a little bit of space so that you can slide your second knot up to make a nice point. That's perfect. So
And this one comes up and around, right?
So you did the opposite.
Did you go?
Yeah, my right straight's my whole.
Beautiful.
Nice job.
Yep, just
It's
like
nice
you're
and
sliding
clean.
it up.
Can you?
All your
I'm not
knots
sure
are
what
out?
I've done.
That's
Not
okay.
sliding.
Let me look.
I think I did this.
That's what I'm doing.
Yep, your right
That was
hand
under.
knots are twisted on this one. They're
Last
not
time it looked
so
like it
bad
was
on
over.
this one.
Oh,
This is my holding
That's
down.
okay.
So
Let's
I'm
take
done this
let's
one.
take this one out and we'll do it together.
Under.
How about that?
Yes.
Put it around.
We want it nice and clean.
Thank you. Okay.
sorry.
Now we gotta do that again.
I'm a better foreman than I am a
Like the same,
crafter.
no, right? The same string.
I was like, what do you mean there's an over and an under? But now I see what you were saying. There is. Definitely.
Okay.
Okay, this is to my
Alright, so you have. Okay, there we go. So now you
So,
have.
there's that.
Let's
Now we have to do it on the other side.
I think it's just 2 of those.
flip forward. And you just you want to get all these out
And
of the
then you
way.
have to pull it and guide it.
It's not
I had to guide
confusing.
mine over
that's right.
to make
All
it
we have to
close.
focus on right now is these 3. Okay. Just need to get those out of the way. Okay. Now, just a tiny bit so you can tell they're a point.
The point.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, you did great.
I don't know why that works. That one understood. I was like, tie a knot on a string. Got it.
Yeah,
Got that one.
that's see. I don't know why, but that's for me.
Let me
That's how I
explain
think about
Yeah,
it.
and I'm like that.
So
Maybe
you
we
see how you
start
have
from-
really nice points.
Yeah.
Like that's
Okay.
a regular half
It's
knot,
gonna look
like
even
when you
better
start
once we
make
trim
the
these
roll.
up. So we're
That's
gonna
what you're
get you
doing, but
trimming.
you don't want that. You
So
want
the
one
next thing
piece
you're gonna
to
want to
be
do
really tight
is
and the other
we're
one
going to
to be
fray
loose.
these.
Oh,
So
like,
that
Yep. So you just want
one is rigid like a stick and the other one is just curling around it like a
it's a 3-strand
snake.
cord.
Instead of them being the same tension. Oh, okay.
And then we'll trim those ones. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is you can really essentially choose how long you want your strands to be. But the best way to make it look nice is to make them even. So you don't want like one snowflake petal having really long and then the next one short. So just try to make them even. So the best way to do that is, now that you have all your frayed strands, just work with one side at a time, meaning 3 cords. So you're gonna pull your 3 cords and just kind of get them nice and straight and flat on your clipboard and even. And then you decide how long you want them, and then just clip them at an angle. So you're gonna angle them towards your points.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Not
Maybe
this
you
way.
need to go.
No.
I was gonna go straight across. I was like,
You
I
want to
did the
kind of,
angle, but I did it the other way.
yeah, you kind of want to angle them towards your points so that it's a little bit longer at the top and shorter at the bottom. It just makes it look a little bit neater. And it doesn't matter if you leave them longer or shorter. I think they look a little bit better if they're kind of shorter, because then they stick out. They don't kind of hang.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's, again, personal preference. It's completely up to you.
Wait, so you want them longer at the top? So I cut it this way?
Yep. Angle it down towards your point, or you can kind of go from the point up. Whatever works for you. And then that's your last step. And then-
I cannot go first. I'm too scared. I might not ever cut mine.
So wait. Yep, perfect. So that they're nice and stiff. And so you can do that too, and then trim them up a little bit more when you get home after they're nice and stiff. Some people use hairspray. It's certainly up to you what you want to do.
So I want to get towards my.
So, yep, kind of. So you have 3 and 3.
okay.
And so you kind of want to flatten them to their natural way of lying, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And then I do them kind of like you're thinking, your logic. I do them together. So I do one petal. So I would do like here, and then I would even that out with the other side.
And you do straight across, or you still go at an angle?
It's really up to you. I do an angle because I kind of like them. I like to accentuate the point. I guess I'll say that.
So here's my thing. Can I make them even first, then?
And you can whatever makes sense to you. You
I
can
would
even-
cut them longer than you want.
Yeah, because
at
you can always
least-
trim them.
Yeah, you can't put it back. Yep.
Measure twice, cut once.
I guess it helped. I sent the right video. It was like an advertisement that popped up, and when I
Don't
clicked
match,
it, it
but
took
that's
me
okay.
to that. and I'm like,
to be perfect.
Wait,
just kidding. Watch this one instead. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're very welcome.
That was very good.
I'm very excited that you got.
I wanted to wait
Yes.
until I have time to sit and kind of process it.
Well, I had to take notes because that's how
Yeah.
my brain works. I have to write it down, and I'm like, okay, and then I
Same,
have
and
to
I have to try
practice.
it.
Yep, and I'm like, I was getting so frustrated. I wanted to throw it across the room, so I was like, you know what? Forget this. I just need to go out and use it. And that.
What do you
As if
think
you're
looks
done.
good?
Yes.
You know, it's your personal
I
preference.
was thinking short too. 'Cause I
Yeah,
just feel like it
I
looks
like mine
cleaner.
pretty short.
Yeah.
Oh man, that one really messed up. Okay.